I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight to our webinar called Off Balance, the American Way of Health. Layla Ali is going to present. I'll do a few introductory slides first. So let me get to the next slide. Okay, I'm going to do an introduction of what we're all about and our membership site, then the presentation by Layla, about half an hour, and then questions and answers. So we'll give everybody plenty of time to ask questions and get some answers, okay? Any questions before we get started about how to use the tools or anything?
Yeah, are you showing a slide?
Yes, on any meeting. Are you seeing any meeting?
I'm on something that says Adobe Flash Player settings.
No, that's not it. Is this Kath?
Yes, I can hear you.
No, it's in the any meeting, and I don't know about the Adobe Flash Player settings, but you have to be able to get in your browser with the URL that's in the invite to see this.
It says, yeah, I went on, clicked on the thing, and it says any meeting.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to go ahead with a webinar. Hopefully you can try some things. If not, you can listen to it and see the recording later. Okay?
You can get the link off the meetup group, right?
What?
The link is on the meetup group, right?
Yes. Okay.
You can email her the link.
I know some of you have attended these webinars before, but for those of you that haven't or not familiar with what we do, or people watching this in the future, everything we're doing here is based on the 10 principles of personal longevity, which are listed here. And they're a set of principles that have to do with how people can integrate their spirit, mind, and body to optimize their long-term health and hopefully improve their longevity. That's the purpose we're doing everything we're doing here, to help people learn that. Next slide. Okay. One of the things you'll learn about this, and also if you sign up for our email list on the homepage of our website, personal-longevity.com, is we have a nice membership site having to do with longevity. There's about 14 different areas to it. I'll just mention a couple. We have the world's largest longevity blog with over 900 articles on longevity-related issues and growing monthly. We have free basic longevity training on the 10 principles. And for people who sign up, you can also get a lot of ebooks, videos. There's a community area, lots of great stuff. It's actually the largest site on longevity in the world. And we have two types of memberships. We have a basic membership package, which consists of 2 great longevity ebooks, 29 health ebooks, and a basic membership where you can read the blog and our podcasts and see these webinars. And then we have the full membership where you get everything. That's $10 a month. So I wanted to mention that, and if you want to learn more, again, I recommend signing up on our website on the home page, personal-longevity.com. Okay, next. Okay, so our lecture tonight by Layla is called Off Balance, the American Way of Health. Based on, she's a pharmacist, and based on a book she wrote about how we use drugs and what we should be doing instead. And then let me show you a little bit more about Layla before I give this over to her. Well, actually, it says why the book, but I want to get to the bio first, and I'll go back. Okay, so a little bit about Layla. Actually, do you want to step in, Layla, and talk about why the book and then about yourself? Maybe that's the best way to do it.
Okay, sure. Let's jump in.
Okay, so I've got the why the book slide up if you can see it. Can you see it?
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
Okay, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'll take it. So, why the book? I wrote the book because I went through a journey. I started learning about pharmaceutical drugs in our healthcare system, and it turned out to be much different than I thought it would be. Going into pharmacy school, I was planning to help people with their health and heal. It wasn't anything like I thought. And what I learned in pharmacy school is medications, they just keep you comfortable. They control the symptoms, but they're not getting you better. And that's generally when people depend upon them for chronic diseases is what I mostly focus on. And there's usually a better way to handle most of them. And again, another one of my main points is that doctors and pharmacists aren't trained in the basics of health anymore. They're only trained in drugs and surgery, yet everybody depends. I mean, not everybody. the main portion of the population will depend upon doctors and drugs for all their healthcare needs. But then we're not trained. We're only trained in drugs. And when you think about healthcare, you're thinking about body and mind and spirit, having empowering thoughts, dealing with negative emotions, maybe having some other alternatives that are herbals or aromatherapy, things that are natural. Pharmacists aren't trained in any of that. And so in my book, I even say depending upon pharmacists for all your healthcare needs is like depending upon a pesticide expert to maintain your exotic garden, because there's just so much more to health than what we know. And I think that's a big part of my message that I want to share. And then I also have interviews with people who weren't able to heal from the doctors. So they healed from things that the doctors couldn't help them with. Things like chronic pain for 20 years, chronic fatigue, there was addiction, weight loss, even cancer and Tourette's. And they all did, and neuropathy actually, they all did things different ways, but the one thing they had in common is they knew that they weren't going to be able to depend upon doctors to heal them, and they had to take their health into their own hands. So that's the intro of the book. And I guess we can go to the next slide, Marty, please.
Okay, I'm on the bio.
Oh, I think I can hit next too, can I? Okay. Yeah, so I grew up, my father was a medical doctor and a surgeon. And my mother still works as a surgical technologist in Long Beach doing the instruments and surgery. So when I put pharmaceuticals were all I knew. That was all that was normal. I didn't know there was anything else. And we actually had in our hallway cabinet, we had a hallway closet filled with medications. So whenever somebody in my family was sick or wasn't feeling well, my doctor would be able to go there, and there was always something to help treat us. So I always felt safe knowing that we had this kind of special access to drugs. And so when I decided to go to pharmacy school, I wanted to continue that feeling, and not only that, but to understand how they worked as well. And so I went to University of the Pacific School of Pharmacy, graduated in 1998, and now I've been working in pharmacies for actually over 25 years. I worked in pharmacies before I went to pharmacy. Okay, so as I was saying, I started pharmacy school as a regular pharmacist, with plans to be the best pharmacist I could be. And I had a couple of epiphanies that changed my course. And the first one was when I was in pharmacy school. They were teaching about the treatments for rheumatoid arthritis. And rheumatoid arthritis runs in my family. Between my mother and her brother and her sister, they've each had 2 knees replaced. So they've had 6 new knees after long-term treatment for rheumatoid arthritis. So when I was hearing about it, they would say, they would give you a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory to help with the swelling, and then adding else to help when it stops working. And then eventually they would, since the inflammation is caused by the immune system, they would give something to suppress the immune system. And of course, we don't want our immune system suppressed. So that was the first time where I was learning how the drugs work, and it's the first time I didn't really feel safe knowing how the drugs work, because, like I said, we had drugs around us all our life, and I felt safe knowing they were there and that we had the access to them. And when I learned about this, this was like, wow, this isn't a path I want to go. I didn't want that. So at that point, it kind of was a light bulb. But again, not much you can do in pharmacy school. You just keep busy and take tests. You don't really have time to dwell upon that. But I kept it in the back of the mind. And then later on, I had a second epiphany. I was out of pharmacy schools, and you can go ahead and click here. So that's part of that first one. Okay, the second epiphany, I was learning about cleansing and detox, and I didn't really know anything about it. It was kind of trendy, and some people I know were doing it, and it sounded kind of cool. So I actually asked a friend of mine if he could give me a cleanse, and he brought me over a couple books and a cleanse, and I was just planning to read these books and just skim them, just to get enough information to do the cleanse. But instead, I started reading them from cover to cover, and they were very fascinating to me. They were brand new information. They were things I haven't heard before. And so it said 90, and you can click here, please. Thanks, Marty. It said 95% of diseases are caused by what we eat. And I thought, well, that doesn't make sense, because here I have a doctor title in a healthcare profession. So if that was true, I would have heard about it, right? I have a doctor of pharmacy. And so I'm like, that can't be true. So at that point, I actually pulled out my therapeutics book, and I started looking up some common disease states to see what they considered the cause to be. And at that point, and then you can go ahead and click again, here's some disease states that were in there, and just it said acne. The causes of acne are multifactorial and not completely understood. Didn't mention anything about the food we eat, right? And go ahead, you can click again. I think there's about 5 of them here. Gastroesophageal reflux disease, also known as heartburn or GERD, is related to the complex balance between defense mechanisms and aggressive factors. Again, nothing that made sense, things we memorized for the test. It did mention food. Of course, with heartburn, people know it comes after you eat, right? But the textbook didn't know. And go ahead and click again, please. Asthma, although a single underlying cellular defect has not yet been discovered, hyperreactivity of airways, blah, blah, blah. Number 4. One more, please, Marty.
Oh, hold on. It's not showing.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. There's Alzheimer's. The type of progressive dementia, no cause is known and no cure exists. And number 5 is, I know, rheumatoid arthritis. The factors that initiate inflammatory response are unknown. So now naming makes sense to jibber jabber. You can see it's all a couple of clicks there, please, Marty.
I'm trying.
It's all jibber jabber that we had to memorize for the test, but nothing that made sense and nothing that really related it to food. So
okay, I'm going back to the other display. Hold on.
Okay, all right.
Let's see here.
Yeah, so after this was the second epiphany, and after this one, there's a jibber jabber.
And we're going back to this presentation here. Pause sharing. Stop screen sharing. I'm going to edit this all out so you won't see this confusion.
All right, only
Just
people here live get to see it.
Stop screen sharing. Okay, now we're back on here. Now I'm going to open up the presentation again, share slides, open the presentation, open.
Okay, so after that epiphany is when really things started changing for me. I really started going on a tangent to learn about all the holistic approaches, because I knew at that point that, I felt betrayed. I felt like I spent so much time and energy learning about health, but these basics of health I didn't know, so I was sort of angry about that. And at that point, I really started learning about the holistic. We actually held a monthly mixer here in Long Beach, where we would have 3 different holistic practitioners come every month. They would give 10-minute sessions of what they did. So I got to meet a lot of them and learn what they do. And then I also, in my book, I interviewed those people that healed themselves. And so with all that, I kind of gained a big picture. This next section here is in my book, and it talks about balance scales. It's a visual comparison of the Western medicine versus the holistic approaches. And this is exactly what I have in my book. I think it summarizes all in all. Go ahead and jump into the next slide, please.
Okay.
Okay, so this is comparing them. And holistically, the goal is to restore balance. So here's a healthy body over here. Everything's in balance. There's something is sick. Maybe there's an emotion that you haven't dealt with, a negative emotion. Maybe you're missing a nutrient, or maybe there's a toxin or something is making you off balance. So if you go to a holistic practitioner, they're going to work to restore balance, whether it's caused by a nutrition deficiency, toxicity, emotion, whatever it is. A holistic practitioner, in a large sense, generally speaking, will work to get to the root cause of what's causing the problem. Now I'm going to try next here. Okay, I can hit next here. Look at that.
Good,
all right.
good.
And then as far as the Western medicine approach, there's a healthy body and balance. Here you're sick, and here's the difference right here, this yellow arrow. We put a brace here to make you feel more comfortable. So, again, if you're speaking about the rheumatoid arthritis, which I think is a great example, you have inflammation in the joint. And so you go get a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, and then it'll hold you in place like that. And you're like, wow, that feels great. But then you have to keep taking it. And, of course, it's not restoring balance. So what happens next is eventually... Oh, what happened here? Oh, I'm missing a slide. There's a slide missing, Marty.
Okay. Well, just go on, so however you can.
Okay. Well, I'll just jump here. So eventually, the next slide would have been these two braces looking happy and friendly and all in place. So basically, after that starts to break, then they add a second drug and a second brace. And so now you're on two different medications with two different side effect profiles. And again, you're not getting any closer to healing. Or, and then eventually, too, you start to lose the nutrients here. Because a lot of times you take drugs and you lose things that you need in your body. And a lot of people have heard of that. And then this here is to represent these high-tech drugs that people will get. They cost thousands of dollars a month, and they're not doing anything to help you restore balance. Again, you're still looking sick here. You have to get to the root cause of the problem. And so you have people walking around. They're looking like this. There are multiple medications, multiple side effects. They're maintaining a state of being off balance for the long term, and they're not getting any closer to true health or healing. And the patients feel terrible, and the healthcare costs a fortune. And so, when you say, why does insurance cost so much money yet the patients are getting sicker and sicker at younger and younger ages? And so people are continuing to wonder, like, why is that happening? It's like, well, this is what our healthcare looks like. This is what all these people on medications long-term look like. It's sick care is what they call it. So, I love that cartoon. It's a typical boardroom. We're trying to figure out what's going on. See, everybody's getting fatter, and there's more drugs, and their money's going down, and they're demanding answers. Anyway, that's explaining the cartoon. Okay, so, again, in this part here, I'm just comparing an overview of the holistic versus Western medicine. When you say holistic, what are you talking about? What am I talking about? Holistic, it treats the cause, whereas Western medicine treats the symptom. Okay, so holistic, again, like the balance scale. It's aiming to restore balance versus Western medicine aims to make the patient more comfortable. Holistically, the body has the power to heal itself, and the practitioner will help the body get to that point. It'll do what it can to help the body versus Western medicine to be treated with a drug for what is going on. Holistically, patient's responsible for his or her own health, and Western medicine, the doctor's the authority, and you're supposed to listen to your doctor and do as you're told, take the medications as prescribed. So you're taught there to not trust your own guidance system, whereas holistically, you need to depend upon yourself for the healing. And then holistically treats the entire person, including body, mind, and spirit. Western medicine treats the part that is broken. I've heard it compared to a part that's broken in a car, and they just don't get it replaced, and they don't take the whole body into consideration. And again, holistically, patient is empowered and responsible. And again, here, patient is compliant and follows the directions. So just as an overview of the different two theories, and then again, there's a lot of holistic medicine, so this is very general here. The next slide, these are just some examples of the various types of, and there's so many more, but this is just some of, and I won't go into these. I think a lot of people have heard of traditional Chinese. It's been around 2,000 years. Ayurvedic medicine has been around in India for, I think they say 3,000 to 5,000 years. Hypnotherapy, guided imagery, uses the power of the subconscious mind for healing. Naturopathy is, about diet and balance. Functional medicine doctors, these people go and they get special training. So any professional healthcare practitioner can go get more training to become a functional medicine doctor. Somatic trauma experiences talks about the trauma that causes diseases and how to deal with them. And biodecoding is, it's one of my favorites. It's actually an amazing theory of disease causing. It's a biological cause of diseases, but just to throw out some examples and not go into these now. Maybe later we could get some people to interview and explain these because they're pretty amazing, actually. So, okay. And then here's some steps. I just want to wrap up. Steps you can take to get off or to stay after medication. And again, these are general, broad steps here. The first one, you want to take responsibility for your health. So again, the Western medicine model, the doctor understands your health better than you and listen to your drugs as directed. And not to just stop taking your medication, but to understand that you have to make the decision. It has to feel right for you. If someone tells you something, you don't do something because someone's the authority. You do it because it makes sense. It feels right. When you think of doing it, you feel more relieved. You're using your own intuition and guidance system to direct you to heal. And number 2, don't stop taking your medications without talking to your doctor. So again, they should be tapered. So, and legally we have to say this, but it's actually a good idea too. They should be tapered to be safe, to avoid withdrawal and side effects. And again, if you look like this and you remove all the braces, then what's going to happen, right? You're going to fall over, right? So it should be done safely and learning about your health as you go and tapered slowly as you learn better ways to deal with it. Number 3, proper nutrition. Again, you won't learn about this from the pharmacist, but the basics of health is the unprocessed food, the natural food, the green food, the nuts, the seeds. Avoid the processed and artificial colors, preservatives, artificial preservatives, and then avoid buying the GMOs if you can. And again, it's not easy in our world, but you have to do the best that you can to get the real food that just comes right from the earth. And then number 4, your thoughts can empower you or they can make you sick. So people should become aware of their thoughts. And again, thoughts that, the doctor can tell you have 3 months to live, and then if you believe it, it's more likely that it'll be true. So, become aware of your thoughts. Are your thoughts empowering? Do you think things like, if I don't get a flu shot every year, I'm going to get sick, or I need to get this, or this is going to happen, or you have thoughts like, oh, these things can bounce off of me, or oh, I just got past the worst of it and I'm getting better. These things can make a huge difference in your healing and what you believe in. Limiting beliefs too. And again, the pharmaceutical companies, they understand the power of the mind because they give placebos, and they know sometimes placebos do better than the drug itself. And there are some studies that they have where just the thought of taking a drug makes the people less depressed or less pain than that. And so they know it, but they use that knowledge to make you need their drug instead of empowering you. So it's up to you to learn how to empower yourself to help you heal. And then emotions, deal with negative emotions. And emotions, Buddha says, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. And so when we hold on to negative emotions, we can create disease. And Louise Hay does great work in this, and biodecoding also shows a lot of that. It's really important to let go of any angers and resentments because they can and will become disease. And again, forgive everyone. According to Louise Hay, when you're sick, you should figure out who it is. Search your hearts for who it is you need to forgive, and that will help you on the path to healing. Okay, number 6, don't expect medical doctors and pharmacists to have all the answers. Again, people depend upon doctors and pharmacists for all their healthcare needs, but the fact is they're not trained in all of health. They're only trained in drugs, and they're not trained in these basics of health that we need to be healthy. And I already mentioned that, so I'll just slide through that quickly here. Number 7, the answer isn't the next new drug. It's about going back to basics, the nutrition, cleansing, and detox. And when people see it, they put those new drugs on TV, and that's legal only here in the United States and New Zealand. And they do it because it makes them a fortune. People see a new drug, they think it's exciting, they think it's going to heal them, but they get them on the market as soon as they can to make as much profit as they can before they learn about all the side effects. But we don't need those drugs. We need going back to basics: nutrition, cleansing, detox, empowering thoughts, releasing negative emotions, and going back to the basics of health. And then number 8, it is possible. So doctors, have this habit of telling cancer patients how long they have to live, or you're going to struggle with something the rest of your life, or you need to take blood pressure medication. You're like, or it's not curable. You have 6 months to live. So they have this thing of telling what's possible, but they don't know everything about health. They just know the basics. They don't know the basics of health. They just know the drugs and surgery. And so listening to your doctor and what's possible is just not your best voice here. And I think that's about all I have. For more information, there's my couple websites I have. We're working on a holistic medical network. There's listings of practitioners that are holistically and medically trained. And I'm working on a Forgotten Basics of Health program to go more into depth on some of the steps that I shared with you. And that's basically the health that I have here. And I will go ahead and pass it back to Marty here.
Thank you, Layla. Very interesting presentation. Let me show one more slide, and then we'll open it up to questions. Layla is one of our consultants. She works through our membership site. And if you'd like to get more information or join our membership site, you would go to our main website. You go to the prices menu and the member prices drop down. And there you can join to get consulting for $10 a month. On the members homepage, you would select the Aging and Chronic Illness section, which is the big section that says wellness on the member site. You could choose a free or paid session with Layla and set your appointment and time and pay online. So we've got it all set up so that any of our consultants can be reached through our membership site, and you get discounts for working through us to get consulting on the specific topics that they cover, which are many aging and chronic illness subjects. And that's true for not only Layla, but the other consultants that we have. And you can see on the wellness page what the different courses, not courses, but training sessions, personal training sessions are that we offer. Okay, with that, I'll close the presentation and open it up to questions. And let me try and promote some people to presenter so they can also ask questions. Let's close this presentation. Does anybody have a question?
I have a comment, Marty.
Yeah.
By the way, Layla, you did a really terrific job there.
Thank you, Ken.
Sure, and I know that you've heard me say this before, but I don't think anybody should underestimate the amount of courage that it takes. Not only does this help a lot of people, but it takes courage to take this path as a pharmacist. It has to. But one comment I wanted to make on your presentation and under number 2, where one should not necessarily stop the medication they're taking without consulting their doctor. It's interesting because I think a lot of people think that the tapering that one must do with their medication as they intend to go off of it involves many more drugs than we think, right?
What do you mean? Like it's harder than they think?
Well, I think a lot of people, including doctors, will equate that tapering with steroids alone. But what the point you're making is that and this is logical, that applies to a lot of categories of medication.
Yeah, I mean, think of the antidepressants, for sure. I know people get bad side effects, maybe even pain medication. But, overall, I think the message is important. Maybe some aren't as important as others, but I would say we have to keep saying that until we figure out. But, maybe Fosamax's not so big a deal, right? So.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Ken. Let me ask a question. So, Layla, how many people come into your pharmacy who you see are over-medicated? I mean, like what % of the people do you think could follow your path and reduce their medication significantly?
Well, I think tons of them could, but I just don't think there's any incentive, Sometimes people will complain about being on too much medication. Mm-hmm. And then when you say, well, you could change your diet and get off some, it's like, I got to go, Mm-hmm. So there's no incentive. I tell people, like, the path of least resistance right now is fast food and drugs. And, you get a whole meal and a copay for, $20, right? And this just takes work. And I don't know if people understand the benefits of how much better you feel on it.
And so
I think if they understood it, they would, but nobody's really pushing it down, and there's no need to.
So what would you say to somebody in that situation, Layla? What would be the top several reasons you would give them to cut down on their medication?
Well, if you look at the balanced scales, you can go to that, and especially if they say people on diabetes, one of my friend's mothers, she kept saying, I have it under control. I'm taking my medications as prescribed. So she felt she was safe. She felt she was doing the right thing. But, you look like that, and then basically, soon there's nothing else that can help. And she had multiple organs failing at the same time. So you're kind of like just prolonging the bad habits instead of working to be back in balance. I mean, I tell people, once you start getting on a drug, start trying to figure out how to get off of it. When you're on a few drugs, you're way off balance. And it's just like a house of cards that's going to fall at one point. You can't stay like that.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Do we have more questions?
Sure.
Kath, or I don't know if you can talk, Melanie.
No, I really enjoyed the presentation. Thank you, Linda.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Again, thank you everybody for attending. We will have this webinar. I'll clean it up, and we'll have it recorded, and it'll be available under our webinars on our website. And also, Layla is available to do consulting, and you can do that through our membership site. On again, on anything to do with medication reduction and aging and chronic illness issues. So thank you all for attending. I appreciate it, and I hope you had a good evening. All right, take care,
Good
everyone.
job, Marty.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Okay.